In order to show you how Assimilate a party game works, I've set up my TV screen to look really odd to show you all the different views, and that's because it's one of those games that requires you to log into a room code on your phone, tablet, web device. It works similar to the Jackbox Party games, but Assimilate is a social deduction party game for 5 to 10 players to play. So in the top left hand corner of the screen you'll see the actual game screen itself, and then around me you can see 4 different incognito browsers to show you what would appear on your device as you play. Assimilate is a game around social deduction, and the idea is that there is one robot in the group of players who needs to stay hidden until the end of the game, which lasts 3 rounds and takes about 15 minutes to play. At the start of every round, 20 passwords are displayed on the screen, and so one of them will be chosen at random and sent to all of the humans' devices, but not the robot. So, the humans are then asked to give 3 clues about describing this password without giving it away too obviously. And at the end of each round, they'll pick one of everyone's clues, display it in front of them, and it will be part of your discussions to see who's really on the right track or not. However, there's a little tiny twist that's going on at the same time. There's a third job role called the programmer. Now, the programmer doesn't get to give 3 different clues, they only get to give 1. But instead of that just being submitted at the end for everyone to see, that 1 clue gets sent to the robot to give them some kind of clue of what to say. So the programmer is working in cahoots with the robot to try and keep them in the game. But obviously you need to be subtle enough to not be like, it's this clue, otherwise you get found out as the programmer and it makes you blatantly obvious that you're trying to help the robot. Whereas the robot's sitting there thinking, what on earth am I going to put in so that I don't stick out like a sore thumb? This of course is playing in the backdrop of the fact that there's 20 options in front of you, so as the robot you're sitting there trying to work out which one of these clues that you've been sent by the programmer kind of fits the bill for the 20 passwords that are on the screen. At the end of each round, when that 1 clue is then chosen and brought out, you'll see everyone's screens change. And so what will happen is everyone gets to vote on who they thinks the programmer is and who they think the robot is. And this is called the deduction stage. Now you can change how long each of these are, and the idea is that you're supposed to be talking in the room with each other. But it didn't really play out like that for us when we were actually playing in real life. Now this is me just playing and mucking about on the screen so I can show you what happens. But during actual play, we found it was more fun for us to not socially deduct at all. And everyone decided to be a bit secret squirrel unless they were wetting themselves laughing at some stupid clue that had been pulled out that made no sense. And then quite often that would make it blatantly obvious who was the robot and who was the programmer sometimes. This carries on for 3 rounds, and at the end of the 3rd round you make your final decision. And this is where everyone gets to accuse who's the programmer and who's the robot again. And depending on where everyone's final vote lands, scores are tallied up to try and see whether enough people spotted the robot and programmer versus enough of the humans not really getting it. Now, this is split across not just the up to 10 players playing the game itself, but up to 25 observers can join in observer mode, great for streaming, so that they can then accuse people as well. Now, my biggest complaint about Assimilate as a game is that this end scoring phase could not be less comprehensible if it tried. It's really difficult to understand kind of where the scorings all go, and then you think like 3 or 4 people have voted for someone, and then it gives you like -2, and I just think I know what it's trying to say, but it could have said it in just a much more simpler terms, almost like a bar chart of just kind of saying like first to the line of who's guessed the programmer and robot then means that the humans win, whereas the other way around. And they've really balked this kind of whole end game section. Aside from that though, I was quite pleased with some of the options that the game has. If someone goes idle or doesn't play, you can dive into the menu and boot them out, which I thought was quite cool. You can completely adjust the time limits that you get for entering clues, as well as the deduction phase, as well as the voting phase. So you can really customise that up. You can decide whether or not you want to share or hide your room code, which is a great one if you're a streamer. And the other thing that I found that was quite useful is that if you dropped out of the game and then you came back in again on the same device, the game picks that up and says, do you want to rejoin as your previous alias? And it pops you back into the game ready for the next round when you pop back up again. So those are all great quality of life features that really help Assimilate kind of embed itself as a game that uses all of the technology correctly, which is great. Where it does kind of fall a little bit lopsided is that we did find that the same prompts kept coming up over and over and over again. Maybe we were just unlucky with the random generation, but it does seem to be obsessed with beach and drink questions. We could have just been unlucky with the random generation, but each time I've gone to play this game, I've had the same issue. The other thing I'd say is that if it's your first time with people playing the social deduction party game, there is a video at the beginning of this game whenever you play it that you can turn on or off to explain what the social deduction elements of the game are. Now, I was playing with people who aren't normally big gamers and they struggled with some of these concepts. Cue my mother going, "What's a programmer?" Several times. Jesus Christ. So just be aware that if people are new to social deduction games, it does try to explain it relatively well, and I think it does an okay job. But yeah, sometimes you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make the buggers drink. So yeah, so whilst Assimilate is perfectly fine, I have one caveat. If you've got Jackbox Party Pack 6 or 8, you've already got a social deduction game, and this doesn't add anything particularly different to that. Push the button and weapons drawn on Party Pack 6 and 8 cover social deduction with better theming and more variety. So that could be swings and roundabouts for you, but for me I preferred the Jackbox Party Pack games version of social deduction compared to this. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more pared down, then perhaps Assimilate is better for you. Nothing wrong with what's here, it's just that Jackbox Party Packs has already done it and I'd already bought those. So it kind of made me go, would I probably go for both? And the answer I'd have to say probably is no. So yeah, written review will be over on highplanegames.com later on today. You guys take care. Bye. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.